Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the very first episode of Beeves Bandwagon. I am Beeve, and this show I'm going to be sitting talking about some sports. What my thoughts are on all different sports, including in the future is going to be some mixed martial arts and some professional wrestling. This is going to be a week by week show, and I'll be giving my thoughts today on the baseball situation. The playoffs are currently going on. Going to be talking about some NFL. It's week 6, and some guys are expected to do better than they're doing, and vice versa. As well as we're going to talk about the first week of the NHL. Some teams are doing very well, and some teams, you can calm the fuck down before you throw them under the bus right now, boys. So, let's start off with some Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, it seems like this playoff has been more of a hitter's game instead of a pitcher's game. Pitchers don't seem to be doing as well as many have thought. I mean, you go to the Dodgers and Clayton Kershaw, the best pitcher in the league. I mean, he didn't really do that well. He kind of shit the bed, so to speak. And I mean, it just seems like it's the hitters and the errors are just piling up. So, and I mean, you see KC is up in their series, and I think that KC is going to end up winning it all against the Cardinals in the finals. And I think it's going to be a great series to actually watch. I mean, I don't like either of the teams personally, but you know what? I think they're going to both do very great. And I mean, I'll talk a little bit about the Blue Jays, who were very well in the first half of the season. They did very well, and they were up on the Orioles by a ton, and good on the Orioles to come back and be able to take that. But those Jays need to get their shit together, because oh my god, what are they doing in that organization? Being a Red Sox fan, I don't know what they're doing, what happened to them either. I know they lost Jacoby Ellsbury and stuff, but that's not your be all end all to your team, is it? Seems to be. And I don't know. That's going to be all I'm going to say about the MLB, because I mean, there's not too much I can say. Right now, there's only 4 teams left, and well, that's about it. I'm going to go over to the NFL here. NFL Week 6. You got some teams who are doing very well for themselves, like Dallas. Dallas, who just beat the defending champions. It's hard to believe that they were able to come up with that and be 5-1 on the season. Now, being 5-1, yeah, Dallas Cowboy fans, you guys can be go crazy because you're 5-1. But this is week 6. Week 6. There's still 10 weeks left to go, or 10 games left to go, depending on what team you are and where your buys are. So all I can say is that be happy, but don't get too cocky, boys. You guys could lose the next 10 straight games and end up with a 5-11 or 6-10. I mean, who knows? But I mean, all I can say is that these people get crazy about their teams winning a few games. I mean, excuse me, I'm a fan of the Denver Broncos and Peyton Manning. And first, I mean, he's expected to do well. So a 5-1 or 4-1 start, I should say, for those boys is actually very good. Actually, very, very good. Even though the only team they lost to was defending champions in overtime at that. So, I mean, first of all, Peyton Manning's going to break the record this week, I think. This weekend, he's going to break the touchdown record of Favre's 508. He's at 506 right now, I believe. So, yeah, he'll definitely break that. And he's got Julius Thomas to throw to, so that's going to be pretty easily done. And then you got some teams like the Ravens, who are doing pretty good for themselves as well. Joe Flacco throwing pretty big in the last game. 5 touchdowns. And I mean, their defense is pretty decent. And you go over to a team like the New England Patriots, who people are a lot of fans, I know of them. These people are nuts fans, some of them. But what I think is that New England had a wake up call when they got beat by the Chiefs so bad that they come out and they said we're never going to have a loss like that again. And saying that, they've come out and been very strong in all aspects of the game since then. And I picked them to win pretty much all the games in my pools and everything because I just see a fire underneath them that you didn't see for the first few games. Tom Brady, don't get me wrong, I'm not a huge fan of Tom Brady. I think he's a mediocre quarterback. But I do think that in a Bill Belichick system, pretty much any quarterback could do decent. I think that he's a little above some of these other ones. I mean, Matt Castle did a 10-6 with him, so. But that's my little rant on the New England Patriots. If we go down the line, we got some teams who are not doing so well, surprise, surprise, the Oakland Raiders. Seems like they're a perennial loser these days. It's kind of a shame because they were a storied franchise who, when they were in LA, did some good things. But, I mean, what more can you do? They had number one draft picks with Jamarcus Russell, and he was terrible. They got rid of him. And I mean, right now they're trying to do the best they can. It's just shitty for them, and they're shitty for all their fans. Because I know a few of them. Because there are a few of them around here. Don't get me wrong. And as far as let's see, some other teams that are doing well. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles seem to be coming on pretty strong. And you know what? I think about the Philadelphia Eagles and I think of Michael Vick when he was there. And then I go over to a Russell Wilson. I think the reason why they're not going to have too much success with Russell Wilson is that same thing with what happened to Michael Vick. He was a run-first quarterback. And I think that after so long, a few years, these teams are going to catch on real quick to what these guys are doing. And once these guys catch on, then they have to show up their passing game, which most of these running quarterbacks don't have a very good passing game. In college, you can run the ball all you want and do that, but in the NFL, you need to have both a run and a passing game. But as a quarterback, to run should be secondary to you. Only run when you have to. I mean, you look at the greatest quarterback in the league right now, Peyton Manning. When do you ever see him run? You just don't. When do you see a Tom Brady run? You don't. An Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers. You just don't see those boys run. They're pass-first players. That's why they have what's called a running back. Everybody knows them. That's why there's running backs. Running backs are there to run the ball, not the quarterback. That is my take on that. And I think that one of the best running backs in the league, Marshawn Lynch, Russell Wilson, man, if you're gonna have your team run, hand that ball over to him, because that boy can smash through people, beast mode. So I think that Seattle's just gonna lose a few more games, and they may not even make the playoffs this year. It's gonna be a tight one because I mean they've lost 2 already in the season. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs set the record again for the highest decibel sound in the stadium, beating out Seattle, who beat them before that. That was a pretty big feat in Arrowhead Stadium. I think the Chiefs have a decent chance to possibly make the playoffs, but when they're in the division with the with the Denver Broncos. It's not an easy feat because the Denver Broncos are always going to be there to take the number one division slot there. And I mean, you got some teams that I don't even really want to talk about, like the Green Bay Packers, who there's fans everywhere. Aaron Rodgers is decent. Most of the other teams are pretty decent. I still can't believe the Pittsburgh Steelers got whooped by the Cleveland Browns. I mean, should have seen it coming because of the first week where they were tied going into overtime. But you just don't know these days what's really going to happen. And the movie says it right. The movie with Al Pacino, Any Given Sunday. Any team can beat any other team on any given Sunday. And we saw that in the Super Bowl last year as well. With the Denver Broncos getting spanked by the Seahawks. And I think we're going to see a few more of these upsets this season. But like I said, you Cowboy fans, don't you boys be getting too high on yourselves. Because in a couple weeks, you guys could get knocked right down off your fucking pedestals. That's all I can say about that. Now I'm gonna go over to some NHL here. Well, it's been 1 week in the NHL, and you got your Leafs fans and your Habs fans going at it as usual. I mean, these guys have been going at it for years. Leafs fans are pissed off because of reffing in their games. And, well, Habs fans are happy because they're 3-1 on the season right now. Now, as far as reffing goes, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're a fan of any team and your team goes out against a rival or against anybody for that matter, and the referees don't call it your way, you're gonna complain regardless. Like, I mean, even if the refs do call it right down the middle and call everything they should, you're gonna be mad at the refs because it's natural. You gotta blame somebody. You gotta blame somebody for your loss, and it just seems like the refs are the guys that you're gonna blame. And I just think that it's a shame. These honest to God, these refs are going out there and they're doing their jobs. They can't please everybody. And every ref is different. Every ref will call different penalties on different plays. So these Maple Leafs fans need to stop getting butthurt over these friggin' stupid calls that may not happen or may happen. Their referees and linesmen didn't call an offside on Toronto in that first game, and they got a goal for it. So, are you mad at the refs for that? No, you're not. It's just craziness. And I hate the negative people over over the Leafs. I mean, you're 3 games in or 4 games in now. I mean, you gotta give these guys a little break. There's 82 games in a season. You can't just say, oh, the first 4 games, that's going to tell the whole season, because it's not. I've seen teams do terrible at the beginning and then end up doing great in the end. I mean, you look at the Los Angeles Kings when they won their first cup. They were 8th in the playoffs. They were 8th seed, and they went all the way and won the cup. I mean, last year they went to 3 game 7s. They come back from a 3-0 deficit against the Sharks. I mean, it's any team's gonna be able to take it. I mean, it's not gonna be just the first few games of the season that are gonna tell all. That being said, there are some pretty decent numbers for some players right now. I mean, Rick Nash has 6 goals, I think, in 4 games now, which is pretty decent because, I mean, he hasn't been a big producer for them in the past few years. So, I mean, they're coming on strong with him, but they need to get everybody else going and get everybody else healthy if they're going to get back to the playoffs again. And, well, Lundqvist's got to be a little bit better in October. I mean, 6 goals in the Leafs. Wow, that's pretty rough for him. Now, I mean, you go to the greatest player in the world, Sidney Crosby, 6 points in his first two games. Yes, that's magnificent, and people are gonna say Crosby this and Crosby that. They love him. I love the guy too. I'm not gonna lie, but you can't he's not gonna keep that pace up for the full year. He's gonna be consistent throughout the year, but he's not gonna keep a pace up of 3 points a game. That is just ridiculous. See, Stamkos finally got on the board with 3 goals the other night against the Habs. Poor Habs, haven't even played a home game yet. And going to the Winnipeg Jets, they seem to be struggling a bit. I mean, Evander Kane being out for a bit's going to hurt them. And when it comes to the Canadian teams, I think Ottawa is pretty much in a rebuilding area, and I see it. I mean, you just got rid of, well, shouldn't say get rid of. You had to trade Spezza away. Spezza was a damn good player, but I just think that the young kids coming in these days are gonna end up being better all-around players than some of the players that we have seen over the years, because they're learning the new rules and everything from day one. You go over to the Habs. I mean, your big boys aren't scoring. Like, where's your Pacioretty? Where's your big guys? They're not scoring. I guess Thomas Plekanec can be considered a big guy, but he's not been the main point producer over the past while. But he's off to a pretty good start himself. And I'm gonna go over to the West Coast here, and you go over to the far West Coast, and you go to the Vancouver Canucks, who seem to have a regeneration this year um Willie Desjardins as their coach, and Jim Benning and Trevor Linden taking over some of the operations. It seems to reinvigorate some of the guys, which I mean it's a great thing. Because I mean, as much as I'm not a Vancouver fan because they're so far out west, I like any Canadian team doing well, as I am Canadian. Then we go over to Calgary. That's my team right there, Calgary, and I understand that the Calgary Flames are going to be in a rebuilding mode for the next 3 years or so, and well, I've come to terms with that. They're going to be a decent team. I don't see them making the playoffs this year. They'll be a couple points out, but the young guys they have on their team are very good, and with a goaltender Jonas Hiller that they can work on a bit more, because he is a very good goaltender. And I mean, Kerry Ramo has been doing excellent for us. Maybe he's our starter. I don't know. I mean, we just gotta ride it out. Gotta ride it out and hope that draft picks equal good players and playoffs. And well, here's my spiel about the Edmonton Oilers. I laugh when I think about the Edmonton Oilers. All the great draft picks they've had. They're one of those teams that draft picks do not equal success. You got teams like the Pittsburgh Penguins, who had all kinds of first round picks and first overall picks. I mean, with the Sidney Crosbys, the Malkins, I mean, the Marc-Andre Fleury's, like all those guys. And they had success. They went to the Stanley Cup Finals against Detroit and lost, but then they went the next year and won. There's your success. And Edmonton has had more draft picks than Pittsburgh did, and they cannot find that combination of guys. First of all, they're always getting hurt, and it's just ridiculous. They can't find a good defense on the back end, and their goaltending is just bad. They need to do something to work somebody from their own system up, rather than keep trading for people who they keep trading away later on in the year. That's just dumb. And my opinion is that if this year if they don't make the playoffs, they gotta blow the fucking team right up. They gotta trade like uh, they gotta trade the guys like the Taylor Halls and the Ryan Nugent Hopkins and the Nail Yakupovs. I mean, I think the only guy they should really be keeping is Jordan Eberle. I think he could be a leader of the team. I think he's a great player. I think he gets outshined by these other guys who are not better than him. They were just higher draft picks than him. That's all. That's what I think. And I mean, it's just I feel bad for the Oilers fans because they were good for a while, and then they were just then they went to the Stanley Cup Finals and lost, which was a sad year when that happened. But it just seems like the draft picks are there, but they're not drafting guys to fit in their system. They're just drafting guys for talent. Like there are teams out there that will draft guys who fit in their system, and it seems to be going well. Look at the Detroit Red Wings. Their biggest players, Henrik Zetterberg and Pavel Datsyuk, were late round picks. I mean, they knew what they were doing, and they knew how to make these guys better. But Edmonton has to blow up. Like they gotta just blow up the damn team. There's no fucking way that this team can keep losing. You can't keep blaming the coaches or the management. These players aren't performing to their potentials, and they don't fit in the system. The management is partially to blame, but these players should be better fitting into the system of these coaches. I mean, it's just bad. Like Dallas Aiken's in there, and he's a damn good coach. But all I see is him trying to get his team to work, and them guys going out there getting injured and just getting scored on at will. So I mean, first of all, the main thing is defense for them. Second thing would be get your star players, separate them, and don't play them together because they don't gel together. And if a team doesn't gel together, then you're done. That's my rant on Edmonton. Edmonton's just done. I think they got to blow the team up, and maybe in 5 or 6 years they'll be contenders again. Maybe longer. And Florida, I guess Florida Panthers are having trouble with their attendance. They said they had about 7,000 people, but I saw the footage and I saw the pictures. There may have been 700 in the crowd, so that's really bad. So, places like Seattle and Quebec City should be happy because you may see a team move there in the near future. I think that I'm gonna go over and say that and go on record and saying that a sleeper team that nobody seems to be picking to do anything is gonna be the Dallas Stars. I think that they have enormous potential with Sagan, Jamie Benn, and a bunch of other guys over there, like Spezza there now, and was Alois Hemsky and Sean Horkoff both there. I mean, those boys played together in Edmonton, so they know each other. I just think that there are some teams out there that are panicking, and fans that are panicking because their team are not undefeated right now, or have a winning record for that matter. I just think that you need to just calm down and wait a week and see where your team is then, or wait a month, or wait until the trade deadline and see what it is and what your team does at the trade deadline. See how happy you are at that. Not to mention the trade deadline is usually pretty boring, but I mean, I go over to Anaheim, has a lot of Canadians on their team, but their problem is going to be defense, and goaltending is going to be their huge problem for the duration of their time this season and a couple seasons. Like, unless they do something about it, I think their goaltending is just too young and too inexperienced. Now, whether these guys actually get experience over the next few years, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could happen. So that's my rant on the NHL. I think that in the end, being a Canadian sports fan, that I would love to see a Canadian team win the Stanley Cup. But I also enjoy players like the Sidney Crosbys and the Nathan McKinnons. Nathan McKinnon's not off to the greatest start, but sophomore slump, I guess, maybe. But we will see. Patrick Waugh is their coach. We will see what happens in the near future. I mean, it's not over till it's over. It's not over till you're mathematically out. So all I can say is some of these teams need to pick up their socks and figure out what they're doing wrong early so they can get back on track. And other teams just need to keep doing what they're doing and evolve so that other teams don't beat them. I mean, that's my spiel about NHL. So, well, as my time is almost up here today, I want to thank all of you for listening to the show this week, being that it's the first one. And I want to thank Justin Thornton and my producer for making this possible. And I'm going to give out my Twitter account because what I'm going to be doing is on every show I'm going to allot at least 5 minutes at the end of my show for some questions, to answer some questions of people. So my Twitter account is at BeastModeBeeve. I'm going to try to get my producer, when he posts this video, or this audio video I should say, on the YouTube, and that he puts the Beast Mode Beef there somewhere so that people can ask me whatever questions they want. I'll answer as many as I can. And I really want to thank you guys for hopping onto the Beeves Bandwagon this week. Next week I'll be back with more sports talk. Next week I think I'll do some little talk on maybe some wrestling and maybe some MMA. I could do a whole show on wrestling. It's just the state it's in these days. But I'll probably do some updates on some sports. Like probably by next week we'll know who's in the finals of the World Series and stuff like that. So we hope that you join us next week for another episode. And I just want to say that if you liked what you heard here, please tell your friends. And well, if you didn't like what you heard, then you can keep it to yourself. Alright, sports fans. Thank you very much for listening. And hopefully you guys will all listen next week.